Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, replaying a conversation you wish you could have had? Welcome to If I Could Say One More Thing, the podcast where unspoken words find a voice. Here we dive into the misconnections, lingering thoughts, and the what-ifs that stay with us. Each episode brings a real request to life, telling the story of a conversation someone wishes they could have had. Because sometimes, finding the right words is the first step to finding closure. What if you could have the conversation you've always avoided? The one where you say exactly what's on your mind, without second guessing, without holding back. Today's episode of If I Could Say One More Thing is a little different. Emily hasn't had this conversation with Nathan, but she's imagined it. She asked for this story because she wanted to know how things could go if she finally confronted him. So what happens when we put unspoken words into a story? Let's find out. Emily sat across from Nathan, fingers clenched around her cappuccino mug like it was her one remaining tether to sanity. The place was packed with the kind of people who arrive early on weekends, eager to prove they are above needing sleep. Here they were, all cradling mugs of pour-overs and milk oak lattes, caffeinated pilgrims in some sort of modern cathedral. Meanwhile, Emily's Italian blend was getting cold as she prepared for the ritual sacrifice of her own dignity. Nathan, on the other hand, seemed entirely unaffected, sipping his black coffee with the smug air of a man who never doubted his own infallibility. No sugar, no cream, not in his coffee, not in his personality. Emily couldn't help but wonder if he had ever actually tasted it, or if he was just sticking to a long-abandoned college-era resolution to be serious. "So," he said, leveling her with a look that could only describe as a gaze, "you unblocked me." Emily shrugged, trying to keep her voice light. "Don't read too much into it. I got tired of looking at a blank blocked list." Nathan chuckled, a sound that, under the right conditions, might even pass for charming if you squinted. "Interesting timing," he uttered. "Interesting is one word for it," she said, though I would have gone with masochistic. "Touché," he said, as if she had somehow complimented him. "Look, Emily, I just wanted to talk. I know things got weird." Yes, Emily thought, very weird. Like when you send someone 500 words explaining how you want a real relationship, and he responds by mentioning he's really busy with work. Just so terribly busy. She glanced around the coffee house and decided it was better to let him have his moment. "So, you were saying?" she asked, leaning back, trying to appear casual when she was pretty sure her face still radiated betrayal. Nathan gave that sigh, the kind that suggests he's about to give you something precious. "Emily, I told you, I'm in a really intense part of my life right now. I can't give you what you want." What I want, Emily thought. Ah, yes, that ridiculous desire for respect, affection, maybe the odd Saturday night dinner. The gall. "You know, Nathan," she said, adopting the overly patient tone of someone talking to a very slow intern. I'm not actually asking you to donate a kidney. Just text me. Connect. Before the next leap year. He smirked. See? That's what I like about you. You're funny, and you get me. Great. I'll add it to my resume. Fluent in sarcasm and understanding avoidant men. For a split second, she thought she saw something in his face. A flicker of genuine guilt. But it vanished as fast as it came, replaced by that inscrutable, too cool expression he always wore when conversations veered anywhere near feelings. Look, I'm building something big here, Emily, he said, gesturing vaguely, as if he were crafting the next space station. I just need you to understand. She sighed, more at herself than him. She did understand. She understood that what he wanted was to keep her on call, ready to provide ego boosts and companionship when his schedule permitted, but without any of the messy commitment that might interrupt his quest for self-actualization, or whatever buzzword he had latched on to this month. Nathan, she said, finally cutting through the nonsense, this isn't about your job or your big plans. It's about you not knowing if you want to be with me. And I'm too tired for all this will they, won't they garbage. I hear you, he stated, nodding solemnly as though contemplating a fine work of art. No, she said, her patience evaporating. I don't think you do. I'm done with waiting around, hoping you'll give me even a fraction of what you give your morning workout routine. She stood up, clutching her purse with the finality of someone leaving a job they hate without giving 2 weeks' notice. Emily, wait, he said, finally scrambling to his feet, alarm flickering in his eyes as if she were a limited edition vinyl he had just realized was slipping from his collection. What? She said, spinning around. She had intended to storm off with a dramatic flair, but of course, she couldn't help giving him one last chance to say something real. I want you in my life, Emily, he said, the words halting as though he had just learned the language that morning. I just don't want things to get complicated. She looked at him, at that slightly ruffled, thoroughly infuriating figure he cut against the backdrop of the brunch crowd, and sighed. Okay, Nathan, she said, her voice finally calm. I'll make it simple for you. I want someone who knows what they want. And clearly, that's not you. Nathan hesitated, his eyes searching Emily's. You know, Emily, he began, his voice soft, I really value us, what we have. You're one of the most important people in my life. Emily smiled, touched by his words. She knew what he meant. Nathan wasn't the most expressive person, but his actions always spoke louder than words. Well, at least when those actions didn't involve conveniently forgetting how to text her for weeks on end. I feel the same way, Nathan, she replied. We've been through a lot together. They shared a moment of silence, the weight of their unspoken feelings hanging heavy in the air like the stale croissant on the counter. Nathan seemed to be calculating his next move, possibly debating whether to insert an awkward joke or glance down at his abandoned coffee cup as though the dregs might offer some kind of divine guidance. Finally, he spoke. "Ah, Bug, I love ya," he said, delivering a light punch to her arm with the tenderness of someone who had read half a book on human connection and called it a day. Emily smiled. A bittersweet, been there kind of smile. She knew what he meant. He loved her, but not in the way she had hoped. Not in the shouting from the rooftops, kissing in the rain way. More in the "please help me move my sofa next week" way. At least not now. And honestly, she wondered if he ever would. "And I love you too, Nathan," she replied, her voice soft but clear. Because she did, in her own messy, complicated way. They hugged, a warm, slightly too long embrace that smelled faintly of his aftershave and unresolved issues. It wasn't the love story she had dreamed of, but it was real, and it was hers. As they walked out of the coffee house, Emily felt a strange sense of relief. Sure, Nathan might never be the leading man in her rom-com, but he was consistent, like a Netflix subscription or the barista who never quite gets her name right. And sometimes that was enough, or at least she told herself that, because what else could she do? And that's where the story ends, at a moment of clarity, a moment of choice. But of course, real life doesn't wrap up so neatly. Conversation like these leave echoes, lingering questions, and the weight of what wasn't said. It's important to note that this story is a work of fiction, based on a request from the person we're calling Emily. Names have been changed for privacy, but the emotions behind the story are very real. Emily wanted to explore what it might be like to finally confront Nathan. But now that she's heard it, does it feel right? Would she actually say those words? Or would the conversation take a different turn? And most importantly, does she plan to have it in real life? Emily, welcome to If I Could Say One More Thing.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So let's start with your first reaction. Did it feel true to your experience?
Yeah, it did feel true to my experience. It was weird and it felt like my own life. I could hear our exact conversation in it and exactly the way Nathan sidesteps the real issue about acting like being upfront. And it was a mix of frustration and humor and constant push and pull I felt from him.
Mm-hmm. What details or moments in the story hit you the hardest?
The part where Emily realized he just wants to keep her around without actually committing. That one hurt.
Mm.
'Cause I felt that too, but I haven't told him that. And that that was almost too real. He doesn't want to lose me, but he also doesn't want to fully choose me.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think this story changes how you see your relationship with quote unquote Nathan?
It definitely makes things clearer. I spent so much time wondering if I'm asking for too much or I'm just being impatient with him. But hearing the story like this, it's hard to ignore that I've been waiting on someone who really isn't showing up for me.
Hmm.
And that's a tough thing to admit.
If you were in Emily's shoes in the story, would you have walked away the same way?
I don't know. I want to say yes, but I'm so unsure. Um, there's a part of me that hopes that there's another version of this where he
Hmm.
actually steps up. But maybe that's just me. And holding on to something that isn't there, maybe walking away is the only thing I haven't been brave enough to do yet.
Wow. Do you plan to actually have this conversation with Nathan?
Whew, I think I have to. Even if it doesn't change anything with him, I think I need to say it for myself. Um, I need to be clear about what I want instead of letting him decide on his terms of what our relationship or friendship should be. I
Hmm.
don't want to stay stuck in this limbo forever.
Mm. And if you could say one more thing to Nathan right now, what would it be?
Oh, so much, but I think I would tell him I love you, but I need more. And if you can't give that, I can't keep making a space for you in my life. Because at the end of the day, I deserve someone who actually chooses me.
Well said, Emily. Conversations like these are never simple. They leave us wondering, what if we had said more or less? What if we had walked away sooner or held on just a little longer? Emily's story is one that so many of us can relate to, and maybe you found a piece of your own experience in her words today. If you know someone who needs to hear this story, send it their way. Sometimes hearing the right words at the right time makes all the difference. And if you have a story of your own, something you wish you had said, or a conversation you're still turning over in your mind, let me help you find the words. Send me an email at SayOneMoreThingPod@gmail.com. And maybe your story will be the next one we bring to life. And of course, be sure to follow the podcast so you never miss a moment. I'm Andrea Applewick, and this is If I Could Say One More Thing.